Morning, Roshan. All right, class, settle down, settle down. Today's assignment is a little bit different to what we usually do. Today, I've got a question that I want you to answer. And the question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Now, I want you to think about this very carefully. Answer it honestly. Don't worry about what people are going to think because nobody else is going to see this. I do want you to think about why. Take your time and answer this honestly. All right, class, that's all we have time for today. Can I please have your sheets as you're leaving? Thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Well done today. Good job. Have a nice day. Thank you, Boomy. Thank you, John. Bye, Chand. John, can I speak to you for a second?
Yes, miss.
John, I think you've misunderstood the assignment.
Miss, I think you misunderstood life.
In the hope for money, in the hope for success, we end up chasing the wrong things and we make a mess. We end up with less than we started with, end up with more issues than we bargained for. Whilst climbing that ladder and that stairway, we forget why we started climbing in the first place. Once, the king of Bhutan was asked by an interviewer what the GDP of Bhutan was. He was surprised and shocked. He replied by saying, in Bhutan, we don't just measure the GDP, we measure the GNH. Instead of just measuring the gross domestic product, we measure gross national happiness. In the process of getting older, we forget the real goal of life. If you could make a little less and spend more time doing what you love, would that make you happier? Don't trade your happiness for what you think you need. Things can never make us happy because they're temporary and limited, but experiences can last forever. Too many people are working hard on things they don't love, to spend money they don't have, to buy things they don't need, to impress people they don't like. When we create our identity around what we do, a career, a job, an occupation, we can never be happy because we're basing it on something external. But when we create an identity around who we are and what we want to be and become, then anything is possible. And remember, we become successful by what we get, but we become happy by what we give. Don't get the two confused. If this message has stuck with you, don't go anywhere. Next up, I'm sharing an inspirational interview about this exact topic. I know you're going to enjoy it. Tom talks about hard work, and if you listen to Tom, he'll talk about how if you want to stand out in the noise, you have to put in the work. You have to be working harder than everyone else around you. Tom worked harder than every speaker there. I thought I was going to work hard that weekend. I think I came second, but Tom literally worked harder than every single person there. He was in all the meet and greets. He spent time with everyone. He answered everyone's questions. Your work ethic, man, it's admirable, but more importantly, it's real because you've got to love it to do that much.
Yeah, that well said. You've got to love it to do it that much. Or here's the bad news. You actually don't have to love it to do that much, but you will burn out. And so one thing that I worry, and I actually worry about this in my message. So I used to post a lot about what time I was waking up. I'd show myself in the gym sometimes at like 2 a.m. And so people started setting an alarm. And I'm like, whoa. Like, that's not what this is. Like, I sleep as much as I need to. I prioritize sleep. So I stopped doing that because I didn't want people to lose sight of what I'm really saying, which is that fulfillment is the punchline. So if we can just literally skip to the end of like the whole thing that we're going to talk about, like all of life, the success that people are chasing, they think they want money and fame and all of that. And those things can be very valuable in a way. But what I want people to hear in my message about like working hard and discipline and all of that is the only reason that I put as much time and energy into it is because I love it. So me trying this method in something I don't love, I've lived that. I know where that ends, and it ends with me quitting. And that's something that I'm sure we'll get into later, but it was like, I did that. The first 6.5 years of my journey as an entrepreneur were about the typical grinded out stuff. And look, man, it was an important phase of my life, but it ended up really chipping away at my soul. And I flirted with depression just enough in my life to know how dangerous it is. And dangerous because it will literally lead to somebody killing themselves, or just dangerous in that, yeah, sure, you live a normal lifespan, but you hate every minute of it. And so just really understanding how you get out from under that. And like lesson number 1, love what you do.
Absolutely, man. And you've said it before that when you started out, there was a time when it was just about money. It was just about getting rich.
That's it. I used to repeat that over and over and over.
What? I just want to get rich?
Yeah, I just want to get rich. That's what this is. I kept saying to my wife, I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to make you rich. Like it was the core of my identity. From the time I was probably preteen, because this was tied to my desire to be a filmmaker, I knew like inside I identify as an artist far more than I do as an entrepreneur. And I was looking at, okay, I love poetry and I love filmmaking. Well, there's no money to be made in poetry, but I could become truly wealthy in filmmaking. So that for me was a creative endeavor that I could also generate tremendous wealth. And so that put me on a path, which of course was part of the reason that I went into being an entrepreneur in the first place. Was I needed to control the art, I needed to control the resources. So I had to like learn business. And so going down that path and really realizing what it took to build a business and all of that, which is a whole universe unto itself, to have the will to push through all of that difficulty, it was, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get rich. And then just realize that maybe for Scrooge McDuck, who wants to swim in his money, that would be like a self-sustaining motivation. But somebody even like a Warren Buffett, at the end of the day, money means something to him. And it's the thing that it means that drives him. It isn't the money in and of itself. And the problem was I was literally chasing money in and of itself.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see someone, and this I know about you, to be reflective enough and aware enough to be okay to switch. Because I think the sunk cost bias in us, the part of us that's just so invested and has built success with that mindset to some degree, but actually your success didn't come from that mindset, it came from switching away from it.
It came from, a willingness always to switch. So I heard a quote one time and it so terrifies me. This, in fact, over a long enough time period, people are going to hear this quote from me so many times because seriously, man, I'm not joking. This scares me.
Wow.
And it scares me enough that it has a daily place in my life. And that is, genius is a young man's game. And when I heard that quote, I thought, whoa, the one thing that all of us touch for the briefest of moments is youth. And if you're lucky, what you'll get is a whole lot of middle age and then some old age, but you don't get a lot of youth. And so I just thought, ooh, that's really scary. And they were basing it on the number of people that win Nobel Prizes. It's almost always for work they did in their 20s and 30s, almost always. And I thought, oh, I don't like that. And so looking at why that, and the reason, I guess this is important to say, the reason that I didn't like it was I felt that my youth was really whipping by and I hadn't accomplished the things that I wanted to accomplish. So if my youth is whooshing by me, how do I make sure that I can access genius at any time? And genius shorthand for like playing at the absolute best of your game and really changing things, like really having an impact. And this is one thing I think you and I share, like no bullshit, I want to have impact on the world. So if I just wanted to be rich, Lisa and I would have bought an island and retired, years ago. So clearly there's something more that's motivating me, and that thing is impact and really touching lives. So it's like wanting to be able to do that. I don't want to say, well, I had this brief window in my youth and I either did or didn't make use of it. But even if I did, I don't want the rest of my life to be looking back on that. So another quote that drives me, your future should always be bigger than your past. So, all right, you've got genius is a young man's game and a personal belief of mine that you should always be looking towards doing something more than you've ever done. And so you put those two together, and I just knew I had to solve for that problem. And the only solution that I have for it is switching things up, like you said, to live at the edges. And the same book was talking about the people that do end up getting either multiple Nobel Prizes or prizes for work they did later, is it's people that would routinely change so that they would have these two overlapping areas. So like chemistry and physics, and like where those two meet, like there's new discoveries and new ways to challenge your own thinking. And so always staying fresh, always challenging my own thinking, always looking at how am I wrong? Most people go into an endeavor with the confirmation bias. In fact, you just brought that up. So it's like, I'm so aware that by nature, like everybody, I just want to be told how right I am, how amazing the way that I'm thinking is. And because it feels good, right? That feels awesome.
Today I'm going to share with you the most useful app on my phone. Before I do that, do you remember reading a book and connecting with a message that helped change your thinking? That's the beauty of reading and learning. I know that in today's digital age, it's so easy to be distracted and overwhelmed with everyone's feed at the cost of neglecting your priorities. If you love books, pursuing new ideas and thoughts, but feel you don't have the time, I have just what you need. I highly recommend the Blinkist app. Blinkist is the only app that takes the best key takeaways, the need-to-know information from thousands of non-fiction books and condenses them down into 15 minutes so you can read or listen to. As you know, I love reading autobiographies and they're usually very dense. So before I start reading one, I use the Blinkist app to filter if it's a book I'll enjoy. I enjoy using Blinkist on my phone, on the elevator, or on my iPad at home. The minimal interface makes it easy on my eyes, and with no distractions, I can fully focus. I've just read The Virgin Way by Richard Branson, and if you're in any way interested in business, this is a key book for you or just a fresh perspective. Right now, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. Go to Blinkist.com/J, try it free for 7 days, and save 25% off your new subscription. That's Blinkist, BLINKIST.com/J to start your free 7-day trial. And you'll also save 25% off, but only when you sign up at Blinkist.com/J. Do you sell stuff online? Well, I have a way to help you make 2020 a lot less crazy and a lot more successful. It's called ShipStation. ShipStation makes managing and shipping out orders a breeze. The digital world we live in now makes selling online very easy, but getting orders out can be really tough. Sending your product out can be time-consuming, expensive, and just way too many options. I like to focus on some things that keep me and my team more productive, so this is why ShipStation.com is valuable. My team always ships things out, and it's crucial to me that they get out quickly, easily, and cost-effectively. ShipStation.com is the most affordable way to manage and ship your orders, so what are you waiting for? Doesn't matter what you're selling, ShipStation brings all your orders into one simple interface and easily manageable from any device. Right now, On Purpose listeners can try ShipStation free for 60 days when you use the offer code PURPOSE. There's absolutely no risk. You can start your free trial without even entering your credit card info. Just visit ShipStation.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in PURPOSE. That's ShipStation.com, and then enter the promo code PURPOSE.
That's how I'm going to calcify into dogma. That's how I'm going to be another statistic in the genius is a young man's game thing. So I'm just always looking for disconfirming evidence. I'm always encouraging people. In fact, there's a part of every Monday team meeting at Impact Theory where it's take a minute, and not just me, but take a minute and point out anything in the company that's going wrong so that we can address it. We call it Principles from Ray Dalio's book. And that is so instructive to get that like raw feedback and quite frankly, sometimes just naked criticism about where you are so that you can get rid of a blind spot.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna have to ask you to do that for me.
Oh man, it's super important.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting, and I don't know the structures of your interviews well enough to know if this tangent will pay off, but like just talking to you now as a friend, if we can get to that place where because you and I share a very similar vision of who we want to be. And I don't know if you're talking publicly about what you told me before we started rolling, so I won't say it. But your vision of where you want to go and the type of person you want to become is so extraordinary. And I promise nobody gets it. I have the chills. So like, that's going to be really cool. And I have a similar sort of big vision of who I'm trying to become. And I don't think anybody really understands about me either. And so if you can find somebody high level who has that desire to push and progress themselves, that you can get to really no bullshit, give you that kind of feedback is so powerful. And when people say that your network is your net worth, that's partly what they mean is like, oh, who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's part of it for sure, and that's valuable. But the other part is like, well, if you have people in your network that know something you don't and can tell you and you can hear it, that will be life-changing.
Yeah.
So man, I'll take that. Like if you're sincere, you can sign me up.
I'm being serious, man. I think we all need it. And like you're saying, it just gets harder and harder and harder as you go on. I was just saying the other day to someone, and my structure with these podcasts for me really is to have a conversation beyond an interview.
Yeah.
Because I learn so much more when I'm just hanging, and actually that's when I have the best conversations. And I have a format, I have my questions, I know you well enough of research, but I'm like, I want to go beyond structure. I love flow state. My videos are created in flow state. I'm fascinated by when I go beyond checking and filtering everything that I'm saying and hearing and trying to match everything you say with what I've read a million times, because that again is giving me confirmation bias.
Right.
How am I able to kind of take all that away and hear from you differently?
Yeah.
And not judge or filter everything you say and box everything you say and learn more from it. So, I mean, that leads me on a quote. When you've been sharing two quotes, the first quote that did come to my mind, which I've never said to myself, so I'm going to share it, is, youth is wasted on the young. Like we hear that too. We hear that too at the same time, which totally goes against the genius one you spoke about.
Yeah, well, that one is coming from a very specific place as somebody who's older, right? It is the exact parallel to somebody saying, I've got all this wisdom now, but I've lost the benefits of youth. Not exactly a catchy quote, but like that's the sentiment that it's coming from. You know what I mean? It's like, and I do feel that way. Like, I'm looking at Johnny here. Johnny's 20 years old. And I think, oh my God, if I had, and really what I mean there is there are not only physical things that you can get away with when you're younger. Look, I'm young enough and I've really focused on staying in shape, so I don't have a lot of deleterious effects of getting older. But if I had that period of my life where being poor doesn't matter and nobody is like holding it against you, like he can walk into a meeting and what people are going to be thinking about is, oh, is this the next Young Turk, right? They forgive everything else. But if I walk in, at 42 with like the same level of accomplishment or whatever, they think, okay, well, if he's not married now, there's something wrong with him, right?
Yeah,
the old adage. So it's like, there's just, the world perceives you very differently. And so I think it's a fair comment. Like he honestly, like he's in a better position because he's at impact theory. So I'm hoping it helps, but like, he doesn't have the context, you know what I mean? To really know where he's at in his life, what to do. Like the fact that he and I both dyed our hair ridiculous colors at almost exactly the same age. It's like there's just this predictable in that experimentation phase where he's trying to figure out who he is and make some noise and like establish that. So now imagine you're already done with all that. Now you're deep wisdom. Now you're like making impact. How do I make this change? I've spent decades of my life working on myself and I'm still 20. Like that would just be an intense game.
It would. If you want even more videos just like this one, click on the boxes over here. And if you want to continue seeing these kinds of stories, you can subscribe by clicking the link right here.